When I got back home after 3 weeks on the road for business, I figured I'd find the usual me ranch quiet, dusty, maybe a couple gates needing oil, and the horses giving me that annoyed look like, "Where you been, partner?" But instead, I drove up the dirt road and nearly slammed on the brakes halfway in. My jaw dropped. I blinked hard like maybe I'd hit my head and was hallucinating, but nope, it was all real. My ranch, my land, was now a damn wedding venue. Giant white tent, balloons, ribbons, an arch covered in flowers. Dozens of cars and trucks parked wherever they pleased, some on my crops. Others so close to the barn I'm surprised the horses hadn't kicked them yet. There were rows and rows of white chairs filled with people in dresses and suits, all laughing, drinking, clinking glasses. And up front, a massive sign read, "Congratulations to the new Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker." That's when I saw her spinning like a queen on the dance floor in a big white dress. Laura Whitaker, HOA vice president, and now apparently the bride. My stomach turned. Music was blasting, people were drunk, and not a single soul had any idea they were trespassing. Or maybe worse, they did know, and didn't care. I sat there frozen, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. My house, my barn, my fields. Taken over. Without my say, without my knowledge. And now used as if I were some kind of absentee landlord who didn't matter. The nerve. The audacity. But before I even made it out of the truck, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A group of kids' wedding guests, I'm guessing, had made their way toward the barn. They were climbing the fencing, laughing, throwing things. Then crash. A metallic slam echoed through the property. My heart shot to my throat. I jumped out of the truck and sprinted toward the barn. The gate was open. One of the kids had knocked it loose. And my horses, panicked, snorting, were bolting. "Move!" I shouted, waving my arms. "Get out of the way." Sally, my brown mare, galloped right through the wedding party, knocking tables aside like they were nothing. Chairs flipped. People screamed. Glass shattered. The DJ cut the music, and Laura stood there, a fork full of wedding cake halfway to her mouth, mouth open, eyes wide. I barely got Sally calmed down. Used the whistle she's trained to follow. Roped her gently. Spoke in that low voice she trusts. Got her back to the barn, shaking but safe. And all around me, a war zone. The kind of chaos you couldn't pay a Hollywood studio to stage better. Frosting smeared on the dirt. Wine spilled on my crops. One guy even tripped over a folding chair holding a $5,000 camera. I turned to Laura, and she came storming toward me, barefoot, veil hanging off her shoulder, makeup streaked. "What is the meaning of this?" she screamed like I had ruined her special day. I stared at her. "Are you joking? You're on my land. This is my property. You held a whole wedding here without even asking me." She sniffed and crossed her arms like a bratty teenager. "This land is part of the HOA green space. We have a right to use it." "No," I snapped, pulling out my phone. "Here's the property line. Official county app. My name's on this land, and it is not within HOA jurisdiction." She went pale, then red. "You should have fenced it better." "How were we supposed to know?" "Because it's called trespassing, Laura. And you're the vice president of the damn HOA knew." Just then, Mr. Walton, my 80-year-old neighbor, came walking up with his dog and his iPhone held high like a trophy. "I saw the whole thing," he shouted. "Got it all on camera, too. Her talking about how she was pulling one over on you. Said you'd never know." Laura's new husband, some stiff in a skinny tie named Curtis, walked up and whispered, "Maybe we should leave." But Laura wasn't done. She grabbed a bottle of champagne and hurled it at the barn. It shattered. My horses spooked again. That's when the sheriff pulled up. Lights flashing, tires kicking up dust. Sheriff Marlowe, broad man with a mustache that could cut glass, stepped out. Laura ran up, tears streaming. "Officer. Thank God. This man let wild animals loose at my wedding." The sheriff squinted at the mess. Then at her. Then at me. "Sir," he said, "what happened here?" I told him everything. Mr. Walton backed me up. Showed him the video. Clear as day. Laura bragging about using my land without permission. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "Laura Whitaker, you are under arrest for trespassing, destruction of property, and endangering livestock." She screamed as she was cuffed. Curtis looked like he wanted to disappear. The guests scattered. And just when I thought the worst was over, I found a white envelope tucked near my oak tree. Inside, an HOA annexation form filed 2 days before the wedding claiming my land was now part of the community. My name forged. My signature faked. I took it straight to Sheriff Marlowe. He flipped through the papers, shook his head. This ain't just trespassing anymore. This is fraud. Grand theft. You need a lawyer. So I got one. Mr. Langley, retired land dispute attorney who used to scare city councils for fun. He looked at the papers and said, "We're going to make them regret ever stepping foot on your ranch." But before we even got the ball rolling, Laura's little brother Kyle showed up and spray painted, "You'll regret this," on my barn. Sheriff came back, took evidence. Kyle fled, but we had security cam footage. He'd be found. A few nights later, I woke up to engines outside. 2 trucks. No headlights. For men, carrying chains and gas cans. They were going to burn my barn down. I yelled. They ran. Sheriff's team showed up, collected the crowbars, and spilled gas. But it was clear Laura and her people weren't done. Langley filed a restraining order. We started civil suits. Filed for damages, emotional distress, loss of livestock, everything. The HOA lawyered up, too. Some slick suit from the city named Dalton. At the hearing, the courtroom was packed. Everyone in town had heard about it. Laura sat there, trying to look innocent. Mr. Langley laid it all out. The annexation fraud, the wedding invasion, the vandalism, the arson attempt. Video, photos, audio. Dalton tried to paint it as a misunderstanding. Said Laura thought it was community land. Then Mr. Walton played the audio of Laura saying, "Joe will never know. It should be our land anyway." That's when things really turned. Laura's face went pale. Then my cousin, Ben, took the stand. Claimed I once said, I'd join the HOA. Langley ripped him apart. No proof. And then dropped the bomb. Karen had paid off Ben's mortgage last month. Whole courtroom gasped. When the judge banged her gavel and said, "Criminal charges will proceed," Laura didn't scream. She just stared dead eyes, mouth tight. The entire HOA board was indicted. That night, I got home to find a package. Inside, a bullet and a note. "This isn't over." Sheriff placed patrols around my property. I installed motion lights, hidden cameras, got 2 German shepherds from a rescue named Imhuck and Remy. A week later, everything changed. Turns out the HOA had been stealing from homeowners for years. Laura's wedding? Paid for with HOA funds. Her husband's truck? Same. Vacations? Yep. The board was disbanded. Bank accounts frozen. Federal charges filed. Laura got 5 years in prison. Curtis too. Kyle ended up in juvie. The rest paid fines and were banned from HOA leadership forever. The day I got the settlement check, I didn't buy a new truck. I didn't rebuild the barn in marble. I threw a barbecue. Everyone came. Ranchers, neighbors, even folks who'd stayed quiet until now. We had ribs, cornbread, iced tea, a band playing old country tunes. We danced under the stars. Kids played tag in the pasture. For the first time in months, it felt like home again. And as I stood there, sweet tea in hand, by the old oak tree, watching the fireflies dance, I thought, they tried to steal what I built, but they gave me something bigger. A community that stood together. They tried to break me, and made me stronger. So now I ask you, what would you have done? Let him take it? Or fight back like hell? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear what happens when you stand your ground. Because this wasn't just about land. It was about respect. And I ain't giving that up for nobody.